Which of the following statements accurately describes the purpose of scikit-learns? Calibrated classifier CV. A. It calibrates the probability predictions of a classifier to better align with the true probability distribution. B. It is used to optimize the hyperparameters of a classifier model using cross-validation. C. It transforms the input features of a dataset to improve the performance of a classifier. D. It is a technique for reducing the dimensionality of data in a classification task. True. This statement accurately describes the purpose of calibrated classifier CV. It aims to enhance the reliability of probability estimates produced by classifiers by adjusting them to better reflect the actual probability distribution in the data. The correct answer is A. LTBRGTC. Calibrated classifier CV aims to improve the reliability of probability estimates generated by classifiers. False. This describes the functionality of cross-validation, not calibrated classifier CV. While calibrated classifier CV can be used in conjunction with cross-validation, its primary purpose is not hyperparameter optimization. It is used to optimize the hyperparameters of a classifier model using cross-validation. False. This refers to feature transformations, which are often employed to improve classifier performance. However, calibrated classifier CV focuses on probability calibration, not feature manipulation. It transforms the input features of a dataset to improve the performance of a classifier. False. This describes dimensionality reduction techniques, which are distinct from probability calibration. Calibrated classifier CV does not aim to reduce data dimensionality. It is a technique for reducing the dimensionality of data in a classification task. A. Classifier calibration. The process of adjusting the probability outputs of a classifier to make them more accurate. The process of adjusting the probability outputs of a classifier to make them more accurate. Probability calibration. Ensuring that the probabilities produced by a classifier are consistent with the true probabilities in the data. Ensuring that the probabilities produced by a classifier are consistent with the true probabilities in the data. Calibrated classifier CV. Scikit-learn. A scikit-learn class that implements classifier calibration using techniques like sigmoid and isotonic regression. A scikit-learn class that implements classifier calibration using techniques like sigmoid and isotonic regression. Sigmoid calibration. A calibration method that uses a sigmoid function to adjust the probability outputs. A calibration method that uses a sigmoid function to adjust the probability outputs. Isotonic regression. A calibration method that uses a non-decreasing function to adjust the probability outputs, ensuring that the resulting probabilities are monotonic. A calibration method that uses a non-decreasing function to adjust the probability outputs, ensuring that the resulting probabilities are monotonic. Risk assessment. Estimating the probability of default on a loan. Risk assessment. Estimating the probability of default on a loan. Fraud detection. Assigning a probability to a transaction being fraudulent. Fraud detection. Assigning a probability to a transaction being fraudulent. Medical diagnosis. Predicting the likelihood of a patient having a specific disease. Medical diagnosis. Predicting the likelihood of a patient having a specific disease. Consider a classification model trained on imbalanced data. Which of the following best describes the purpose of calibrated classifier CV in this scenario? To improve the model's accuracy by adjusting its decision threshold based on the class imbalance. To improve the model's performance by learning a calibration curve to correct the predicted probabilities. To enhance the model's robustness by reducing its sensitivity to outliers in the minority class. All of the above. To improve the model's accuracy by adjusting its decision threshold based on the class imbalance. True. Calibrated classifier CV can help adjust the decision threshold to account for the class imbalance, leading to more balanced predictions and improved accuracy. The threshold determines the point at which a predicted probability is classified as positive or negative. Adjusting this threshold based on the class imbalance can improve accuracy, especially in imbalanced datasets where the model might be biased towards the majority class. To improve the model's performance by learning a calibration curve to correct the predicted probabilities. True. Calibrated classifier CV learns a calibration curve to correct the predicted probabilities. This curve helps to improve the reliability of the predicted probabilities, making them more accurate and reliable in the context of the imbalanced data. By adjusting the predicted probabilities based on the calibration curve, calibrated classifier CV helps to ensure that the model's predictions are more consistent with the true observed probabilities, leading to improved performance. To enhance the model's robustness by reducing its sensitivity to outliers in the minority class. True. Calibrated classifier CV can enhance the model's robustness by reducing its sensitivity to outliers in the minority class. By calibrating the model's predictions, it reduces the impact of outlier data points, which can disproportionately affect the model's performance in imbalanced datasets. The model becomes more robust, less prone to bias caused by outliers, and capable of making more reliable predictions even when faced with noisy or unusual data. All of the above. True. Calibrated classifier CV achieves all of the above mentioned purposes, improving accuracy by adjusting the decision threshold, improving performance through calibration curve correction, and enhancing robustness by reducing sensitivity to outliers. These combined effects make calibrated classifier CV a valuable tool for dealing with imbalanced datasets and improving the overall quality of classification predictions. All of the above. A calibration curve plots the predicted probabilities against the true observed probabilities, revealing the model's confidence in its predictions. Consider a model predicting the probability of a customer buying a specific product. A calibration curve would show how well the model's predicted probabilities align with the actual observed probabilities. If the curve is close to the diagonal line, the model's predictions are well calibrated, indicating a reliable prediction of the likelihood of a customer buying the product. If the curve deviates significantly from the diagonal, the model's predictions are not well calibrated, suggesting potential issues in the model's confidence in its predictions. In marketing campaigns, where the goal is to target customers with the highest likelihood of purchasing a product, well-calibrated predictions are essential for maximizing campaign efficiency and return on investment. The decision threshold determines the point at which a predicted probability is classified as positive or negative. Suppose you have a model that predicts the probability of a loan defaulting. A decision threshold of 0.5 would classify loans with a predicted default probability above 0.5 as high risk, and those below 0.5 as low risk. Adjusting the decision threshold could be necessary based on the specific risk tolerance and objectives of the lending institution. A higher threshold would result in fewer loans being classified as high risk, while a lower threshold would identify more high-risk loans. In risk management, where the objective is to minimize the risk of losses, the decision threshold can be adjusted to balance the trade-off between accepting high-risk loans with potentially higher returns and rejecting low-risk loans with lower returns. Outliers are data points that deviate significantly from the rest of the data, potentially skewing the model's predictions. In a dataset of customer purchase history, an outlier might be a customer who made an exceptionally large purchase compared to the average purchase amount. This outlier could distort the model's understanding of the typical purchase behavior, leading to inaccurate predictions for other customers. In customer segmentation, where the goal is to identify distinct groups of customers based on their purchase behavior, outliers need to be carefully handled to avoid skewing the segmentation results and ensure meaningful insights. Calibrated classifier CV helps ensure accurate identification of fraudulent transactions, even when fraud cases are rare. In credit card fraud detection, calibrated classifier CV can help to identify fraudulent transactions by adjusting the decision threshold based on the rarity of fraud cases. By accurately predicting the probability of a transaction being fraudulent, even when the model is trained on a dataset with a small proportion of fraudulent transactions, calibrated classifier CV can help to reduce false positives and ensure that legitimate transactions are not flagged as fraudulent. Financial institutions can use calibrated classifier CV to improve the accuracy and efficiency of their fraud detection systems, ultimately reducing financial losses and protecting customers from fraudulent activities. In medical diagnostics, accurate probabilistic predictions are crucial for making informed decisions about treatment plans. In a model predicting the likelihood of a patient developing a specific disease, calibrated classifier CV can help to ensure that the model's predictions are accurate and reliable. By calibrating the model's predictions, the medical professionals can be confident in the probability estimates, leading to more informed decisions regarding treatment plans, diagnostic testing, and patient monitoring. Calibrated classifier CV can be a valuable tool for medical professionals in making critical decisions regarding patient care, helping to ensure that treatment plans are tailored to the individual patient's needs and risks. Calibrated classifier CV helps financial institutions make more reliable assessments of credit risk, reducing the likelihood of defaults. In credit risk assessment, calibrated classifier CV can help financial institutions to make more accurate predictions of loan defaults. By calibrating the model's predictions, the financial institution can be confident in the probability estimates, leading to more informed decisions regarding loan approvals, interest rates, and loan terms. Calibrated classifier CV can be used by financial institutions to improve their credit risk management practices, helping to reduce the risk of loan defaults and improve the overall profitability of their lending operations. What is the primary function of the calibration curve function in sklearn? A. To evaluate the reliability of a classifier's predicted probabilities. B. To adjust the decision threshold for a classifier. C. To visualize the relationship between predicted probabilities and true labels. D. All of the above. A. To evaluate the reliability of a classifier's predicted probabilities. Calibration curve primarily focuses on assessing the reliability of predicted probabilities by comparing them to actual outcomes. It allows you to visualize how well calibrated a model is. A perfectly calibrated model will have predicted probabilities that match the true proportion of positive examples for different probability bins. True. B. To adjust the decision threshold for a classifier. Although not its primary function, calibration curves can indirectly inform the decision threshold. If the model consistently overestimates or underestimates probabilities, Adjusting the threshold may be necessary. True. C. To visualize the relationship between predicted probabilities and true labels. Calibration curve primarily focuses on assessing the reliability of predicted probabilities by comparing them to actual outcomes. It allows you to visualize how well calibrated a model is. A perfectly calibrated model will have predicted probabilities that match the true proportion of positive examples for different probability bins. True. D. All of the above. The correct answer is D. All of the above. True. D. All of the above. Calibration refers to the degree to which a model's predicted probabilities align with the true probabilities of the target variable. Imagine you are predicting the likelihood of a customer purchasing a product based on their past browsing history. A well-calibrated model would accurately reflect the true chances of purchase based on a customer's behavior. These are the probabilities output by a classification model for each class. They represent the model's confidence in predicting the class for a given instance. In a spam detection model, the predicted probabilities could indicate the likelihood of an email being spam or not spam. A high probability for spam would suggest the model is confident it's spam. These are the actual class labels for the instances in the dataset, representing the ground truth. In a medical diagnosis model, the true labels would be the actual diagnosis for each patient. These labels are used to evaluate the model's performance. This is a graphical representation of the model's calibration. It plots the predicted probabilities against the observed proportions of positive examples in different probability bins. If you are using a credit risk model to assess loan applications, the calibration curve would show how well the model's predicted probabilities of default matched the actual default rates observed in different risk categories. The calibration curve function in sklearn takes a classifier, predicted probabilities, and true labels as input and returns the calibration curve data. This data can then be used to plot the calibration curve. You can use the calibration curve function to evaluate a customer churn prediction model by plotting its predicted probabilities against the actual churn rates for different probability ranges. 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0.8, 0.3, 0.9, 0.7, 0.2, 0.6, 0.1, 0.4, 0.9, 0.5. Using the calibration curve function with this data would produce a plot showing how the model's predicted probabilities compare to the actual proportion of positive examples won in different probability bins. This would help evaluate the model's calibration.